it's no fault of Elvis. He loved the song.
Dolly Parton, often seen as America's sweetheart and a cherished icon of country music, has spent decades enchanting the world with her voice and warmth. But behind that bright smile is a lesser-known history filled with tension, betrayal, and iconic feuds that stayed out of the public eye. While she was praised publicly and appeared friendly with many in the industry, behind closed doors, there were heated arguments, hurt feelings, and friendships that fell apart. One artist vowed never to work with her again, and another even attempted to steal one of her biggest songs. Though Dolly has tried to keep these stories under wraps, the truth about the 5 singers she couldn't stand working with has surfaced. So what really happened away from the spotlight? And why do some of these wounds still linger today? Once you learn the truth, you may never look at Dolly Parton the same way again. You might recognize Dolly for her towering hair, sparkling outfits, and a voice so powerful it moves people to tears. But behind all that glamour lies a journey that's even more astonishing than most fans realize. Her rise from deep poverty to musical royalty is packed with emotional twists and industry drama. Despite her reputation as the Queen of Kindness, Dolly hasn't always gotten along with everyone in the business. To understand these conflicts, it helps to understand who she is, and why she usually avoids getting pulled into drama. Dolly Rebecca Parton was born on January 19, 1946, in a modest one-room cabin in Locust Ridge, Tennessee. She grew up in a close-knit but struggling family with 12 children living under one roof. Her father, Lee Parton, was a hard-working man who couldn't read or write, but Dolly still calls him the smartest person she's ever known. Her mother, Avi Lee, had all 12 children before the age of 35 and shared her passion for storytelling, music, and faith with her daughter. Music, for the Partons, wasn't a pastime, it was a way to survive. With no money for entertainment, the children learned to sing in church and make music together on the front porch. Dolly's talent stood out early, and by the age of 10, she was already performing on radio and television shows in Knoxville. Soon after, she was appearing on the Grand Ole Opry. The day after finishing high school in 1964, she packed her bags and headed for Nashville, armed with nothing but determination, raw talent, and dreams as vast as the Smoky Mountains she left behind. She began her career writing songs for other artists but quickly realized she wanted more than to be behind the scenes, she wanted center stage. In 1967, she scored her first country hit with Dumb Blonde, a witty track that announced she wasn't just a pretty face. Her real breakthrough came when she joined the Porter Wagoner show the same year. Weekly TV appearances made her a household name, and her chemistry with Porter Wagoner made their duets a hit. Her charm, voice, and presence captivated audiences. By the early 1970s, Dolly launched her solo career and became unstoppable. In 1973, Jolene was released and quickly became a classic. Then came I Will Always Love You, a song that would eventually become one of the biggest hits in music history thanks to Whitney Houston's version, but make no mistake, Dolly still owns the rights. She earned millions from that one song, yet she never boasts about it. By the 1980s, Dolly Parton was everywhere, whether it was movies, music, or merchandise, she had her hand in it all. She starred in 9 to 5 alongside Jane Fonda and Lily Tomlin, showing the world that her talents extended beyond singing, she could act, too. Then came Dollywood, her own theme park, which opened in 1986 in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. While other celebrities were splurging on yachts, Dolly chose to build a family amusement park in her hometown, helping boost the local economy. But don't be misled by her generosity, Dolly is one of the sharpest business minds in the entertainment industry. With thousands of songs written, multiple Grammys, Lifetime Achievement Awards, and an induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, her accomplishments are all the more impressive considering she grew up without running water. That's not the whole story. Dolly has also donated millions of books through her Imagination Library, a project aimed at giving children access to books no matter where they live. Over time, she crafted a public image of being kind, humble, and drama-free. But even someone as sweet as Dolly has her limits. Over the years, a few familiar names have surfaced, individuals she's had conflicts with, those who underestimated her, tried to control her, or took credit for her success. Dolly doesn't forget. She might keep a smile on her face, but behind the scenes, there have been tensions, arguments, and lasting wounds. One of the earliest and most complicated of these relationships was with a man who helped launch her career but later tried to claim it as his own. Their professional partnership eventually turned into one of the most notorious breakups in country music, Dolly Parton versus Porter Wagoner. Before Dolly became a global superstar, Porter Wagoner was already a major figure in country music. With his distinctive voice and charming persona, he had already built a strong reputation. He wasn't just a performer, he was a showman. By the 1960s, he was hosting the Porter Wagoner Show, one of the most popular syndicated country shows in America. Though his stage presence was flashy, off-camera he was strategic, business-savvy, and deeply rooted in tradition. He recognized Dolly's potential right away. When she joined the show, taking the place of Norma Jean, fans weren't happy. Many were loyal to Norma and reacted harshly, some booed Dolly and sent her angry letters. Still, Porter stood by his decision, and Dolly handled the backlash with poise and determination. She had something to prove. It wasn't long before they became a successful duo. Their voices blended beautifully, and their on-screen connection was undeniable. Together, they produced more than a dozen top 10 hits and looked like the ideal team. But behind closed doors, conflict was simmering. Porter didn't just want a singing partner, he reportedly wanted to control Dolly's career. He managed her schedule, chose the songs they'd perform, and made most of the business decisions. But Dolly was never just a pretty face, she was a songwriter, a visionary, and a woman with her own goals. Her ambitions extended far beyond duets and TV appearances. Though she went along with the arrangement for years, her growing fame made her long for independence. Frustrated, she started writing songs that didn't fit their usual style. More than anything, she wanted creative control and the freedom to follow her own path. She later admitted in her own words that Porter initially struggled to see her as his equal. While he had once given her a platform, over time, that very platform began to feel like a cage. Still, she didn't walk away immediately. She felt a deep sense of gratitude toward him. But by 1973, the tension had reached a breaking point, and in 1974, she finally left the Porter Wagoner Show. To the outside world, the split seemed friendly, but behind the scenes, it was only the beginning. 5 years later, Porter retaliated with a lawsuit. In 1979, he sued Dolly for $3 million, alleging she had breached their contract. He claimed she owed him management fees, show expenses, and a share of her post-show income. The lawsuit shocked Dolly. Despite their strained departure, she had always viewed Porter as a mentor. To her, the legal battle felt like a personal betrayal. Things became tense, with public statements, media attention, and rumors spreading throughout the industry. But Dolly refused to fight dirty. Instead, she chose to resolve the matter quietly and settled out of court. She later explained that she never wanted a fight, she just wanted her freedom. The ordeal left Dolly emotionally drained. Porter had played a significant role in her early success, and they had shared meaningful moments. They had made music history together, but he couldn't let her go without conflict. In an interview, she once said, "When I was trying to leave the show I had told Porter I'd stay 5 years. It had been 5 and it was 6 and it was 7. He was just having a really hard time because it was going to mess up his show. We were very bound and tied together in so many emotional ways and he just would not hear it." That statement captured the heart of their struggle. It wasn't just about business, but something far more personal. Porter's behavior during that time revealed a side of him Dolly hadn't seen before, and it hurt her deeply. But time has a way of healing. By the late 1980s, after years of estrangement, Dolly and Porter began speaking again. In 2002, Dolly made a surprising gesture. She inducted Porter Wagoner into the Country Music Hall of Fame. On stage, she shared how much he had meant to her, even through their roughest times. When Porter was hospitalized with lung cancer in 2007, Dolly visited him. He passed away just weeks later. She was heartbroken and held a tribute concert at Dollywood, not for publicity, but in memory of the man who had helped launch her dreams, even if he once tried to stand in their way. This chapter of her life with Porter was one of the most complicated, but it shaped her profoundly. Another significant moment in Dolly's journey came with an unexpected conflict involving Linda Ronstadt. Along with Emmylou Harris, the three legendary artists had formed a dream collaboration with the trio album. Their voices blended beautifully, creating timeless songs that still resonate today. But things weren't always harmonious behind the scenes, especially between Dolly and Linda. What began as a musical bond nearly turned into a serious fallout. In the mid-1970s, all three women were already well-established stars. They admired each other's talents and had long hoped to work together. However, scheduling conflicts and issues with their record labels constantly got in the way, causing repeated delays in bringing their vision to life. In 1987, the trio finally released their first album, Trio. It was a huge success, going platinum, topping the country charts, and even winning a Grammy. However, the smooth sound of the album didn't reflect the tension behind the scenes. Dolly Parton, known for her fast-paced work style, preferred recording songs in just 1 or 2 takes. Linda Ronstadt, in contrast, was meticulous, often spending hours perfecting a single vocal. Emmylou Harris played the role of peacemaker, trying to maintain harmony between the two. Dolly later admitted that working with Linda felt like dealing with a diva who enjoyed lingering in the studio and taking her time. She confessed to often feeling the urge to yell at her. The differences in their working styles became hard to ignore, and tension simmered throughout the project. Despite these difficulties, the group tried to come together again in 1994 to record Trio 2. Unfortunately, record label disagreements and scheduling problems delayed the album's release until 1999. By then, the damage to their relationship had already been done. While Dolly and Linda had started off with mutual respect and a touch of healthy competition, their collaboration ended on a sour note. Linda openly expressed her frustrations, accusing Dolly of being unreliable during the recording process. She claimed Dolly frequently canceled or arrived late, which she found incredibly frustrating. According to Linda, Dolly was consistently tardy and somewhat flaky. But Linda's complaints went deeper than punctuality. She felt Dolly didn't fully value the commitment required to see the project through. It seemed to Linda that Dolly prioritized her solo career over the group's efforts, leaving her feeling bitter. The tension between them grew so intense that Linda declared she had no interest in working with Dolly again. She believed Dolly's lack of professionalism had ruined what was meant to be a joyful artistic collaboration. Over time, though, some of the hostility faded. The two women showed occasional signs of reconciliation, though not without awkwardness. It's evident that some resentment lingered. While they weren't openly hostile, neither made much effort to rebuild their friendship. Still, the legacy of the trio project endured, celebrated by fans, though Linda's critical words remained with Dolly, leaving a lasting sting. When people think of Elvis Presley, they remember the king of rock and roll, a cultural icon who forever changed music. Dolly Parton, likewise, is a towering figure in country music, revered for her songwriting and distinctive voice. Despite their iconic status, the two stars nearly collaborated once, but a conflict over a single song prevented it. That song was Dolly's beloved ballad I Will Always Love You, written in 1973. Inspired by her decision to part ways with longtime mentor Porter Wagoner and strike out on her own, the song was deeply emotional and personal. Originally a heartfelt goodbye, it grew into one of country music's most cherished classics, with Dolly pouring her heart into every lyric. The song was released as a single and quickly became a major success, earning her widespread recognition. At the time, she had no idea that Elvis Presley and his team were also interested in the song. The king himself wanted to record a version, and his team had already begun working to make it happen. During the mid-1970s, Elvis was at the height of his fame, known for taking other artists' songs and making them his own. So when he showed interest in I Will Always Love You, Dolly felt honored. But a serious issue soon arose. Elvis's manager, Colonel Tom Parker, was notorious for making excessive demands in music deals. Dolly, still establishing herself as a songwriter, was not willing to compromise. Parker wanted 50% of the royalties from any song Elvis recorded, and Dolly couldn't accept that. Her decision wasn't only about money, it was about protecting her creative integrity. She valued her work deeply and wasn't going to let anyone exploit it. As a result, she turned down the offer. Dolly told Parker, "This is the most important copyright in my whole publishing company, and I can't do that." She later shared that the proposal deeply upset her. Although she admired Elvis as a performer, the terms felt unfair and manipulative. Dolly eventually revealed that Elvis was very disappointed by her refusal. He had genuinely loved the song and wanted to record it. While she felt sorry for him, she knew that saying yes would have opened the door for others to take advantage of her. What happened between Dolly and Elvis wasn't just a professional disagreement, it felt personal. Though she handled it with grace, the situation caused a rift. Dolly later admitted she believed Elvis never completely forgave her for turning him down. In interviews, she said the fallout was painful, especially because she had such deep respect for him as an artist. She also mentioned that Elvis was quite sensitive, and while he didn't confront her directly, their relationship changed afterward. In the long run, Dolly's choice to hold on to "I Will Always Love You" turned out to be the right one. Years later, Whitney Houston's version became one of the most iconic songs in music history, introducing the track to new audiences and earning Dolly millions in royalties. Despite the difficult moment with Elvis, she never regretted standing her ground. She has said she felt proud for defending her rights, even if it meant going against one of the biggest names in the industry. That wasn't the only time Dolly stood up for herself. Known for her kind and humble personality, it takes a lot to provoke her. But in 2008, one person managed to push her to her limits: Howard Stern. Famous for his bold and unapologetic style, Stern has long been a magnet for controversy. He remains one of the most polarizing and influential figures in radio history. The Howard Stern Show gained huge popularity during the 80s and 90s. Stern made his mark by saying things most people wouldn't dare to say. His fans admired his fearlessness, while his critics found him crude and offensive. In 2008, Dolly Parton became involved in a highly controversial scandal connected to Stern. During one of his most notorious segments, his team created a fake interview by editing clips from Dolly's audiobook My Life and Other Unfinished Business. They used her real voice recordings but pieced together words and phrases to make it seem like she was saying vulgar, racist, and shocking things. The segment falsely portrayed Dolly as insulting artists like Kenny Rogers and Linda Ronstadt, and making rude comments about her own body and private life. Although meant to be humorous, the segment was anything but. It was cruel, tasteless, and deeply hurtful. Stern's crew aired the segment and laughed, treating it as just another provocative stunt. But for Dolly and her millions of fans, it was a devastating attack on her character. Known for her calm demeanor, Dolly was visibly upset this time. She released a rare, heartfelt statement saying, "I have never been so shocked, hurt, and humiliated in all my life. I cannot believe what Howard Stern has done to me. In a blue million years, I would never say such vulgar things." She described Stern's actions as vile and hinted at possible legal action. This was significant since Dolly rarely threatens lawsuits. She added, "If there's ever going to be a lawsuit, it will be because of this. I want you to know that I am completely devastated." Fans reacted with outrage. Country music stations, longtime supporters, and casual listeners flooded online forums defending her. Despite the backlash, Howard Stern showed no remorse. He refused to apologize and instead laughed it off, calling it a joke. He insisted it wasn't meant to harm Dolly and accused people of being overly sensitive. To Stern, it was satire. But for Dolly, it was deeply personal, and she didn't forgive him quickly. After the 2008 incident, the two didn't interact again. Dolly took the high road, never publicly criticizing Stern on television or in the press, letting her fans speak on her behalf. Still, the hurt remained, and the feud was often brought up by fans for years. Then, something surprising happened. In 2023, Dolly Parton appeared on The Howard Stern Show for the first time ever. It had been 15 years since the scandal, and no one expected her to show up. Dolly had a new goal. She was promoting her groundbreaking rock album Rockstar. If ever there was a time to step outside her comfort zone, this was it. Stern was unusually respectful, calling her a legend, praising her energy and voice, and toning down his usual sarcasm. Though the tension was noticeable, it seemed clear that Dolly only agreed to be there because she wanted to promote her album. Still, she demonstrated once again her maturity and ability to control the story on her own terms. Jeff Tweedy of Wilco remarked that Dolly Parton's place in the music world is nearly untouchable, and it's hard to imagine anyone openly criticizing her work. But, as with many legends, there are always people with different opinions, and Jeff Tweedy, the frontman of the alt-country band Wilco, wasn't afraid to share his. Though Tweedy is well respected for his songwriting, particularly in the indie and alternative country scenes, he sparked controversy when he openly criticized Dolly Parton's songwriting and her role in the wider music world. This led to tension between two musical forces, leaving Dolly unhappy with his remarks. The conflict started when Tweedy was interviewed about Dolly Parton and her songwriting. While he recognized Dolly's important place in music history and her influence on country music, he quickly criticized her lyrics, calling them superficial. He made it clear that, in his view, her songwriting wasn't as deep or meaningful as that of others. To Tweedy, Dolly's songs focused more on catchy melodies than on complex, thought-provoking themes. In a revealing interview, Tweedy compared Dolly to other songwriters who he believed showed more depth in their work. He said that although Dolly's songs had broad appeal, they lacked the complexity he thought great songwriting required. He even suggested that her success was driven more by her personality than by the substance of her music. When asked if he disliked Dolly, Tweedy responded, "No, I love Dolly Parton. All I know is she wrote Jolene and I Will Always Love You on the same day, and I think she should have stopped after Jolene." Though not harsh, his comments were clearly critical, especially coming from someone known for deeply personal and sometimes abstract lyrics. He seemed to minimize Dolly's approach to songwriting, reducing her long and successful career to something less significant. Reports later said Dolly was aware of Tweedy's remarks and didn't appreciate them. She has always taken pride in her songwriting, with many of her songs being deeply personal and reflecting her life experiences. Hearing a fellow musician dismiss her work must have been hurtful. Interestingly, Dolly has always been candid about her struggles as a songwriter and how she writes from the heart. In interviews, she often talks about how personal her lyrics are and how they mirror her life. This makes Tweedy's criticism seem irrelevant to her mission. She knows that despite critics, her songs connect with millions, and that's what truly matters. In the end, Dolly Parton's legacy as a songwriter is unquestionable. Whether Tweedy or other critics appreciate her work or not doesn't change the fact that her music has touched countless lives. Her songs have been covered by some of the biggest names in music, crossing genres and generations, and her influence is deeply woven into American music history. Dolly's journey in music hasn't been ordinary. She's faced many feuds and criticism both inside and outside the industry, but she has handled it all with the grace and strength of a true icon. What do you think? Which feud do you believe affected Dolly's career the most? Share your thoughts in the comments below.